Hey there, creative people. What's up, buds? Welcome to the podcast. My name is Ryan Leacock. This is the podcast for people who like to make things. So if you like to make things, come on in. We got the podcast for you. This week, I'm chatting with Isabel Carreńo. I think that's how you say it. Bonjour, Isabel on Instagram. Isabel is an artist from Spain. Her illustrations are pretty, they're playful, and they're just classic, you know. They're that simple that is more than the sum of its parts. She captures the essence and the vibe of a person or a type of cinema with just a few lines. I love it. I love her work. Really, really glad that she's on the podcast this week. And I'm glad to be back. You know, I was feeling a little bit burnt out. I didn't want to bring that into the podcast. So I've been taking a little longer than I usually would to get episodes up. Cut myself some slack. Actually, this week when I was putting together the episode, I heard myself saying some things that I had to learn again lately. In the edit, I was like, take your own advice, right? And so I did. I mean, at least I'm trying to. It's helping, though. I'm feeling a little less burnt out. It helped me get unstuck and my creativity is flowing again. So it was just a good reminder to me that even the stuff you have to kind of learn again sometimes. For me, it was in regard to, the pressure I put on my creativity to make money. Isabel, in our conversation, talks about keeping her art and her job separate and the freedom that she experiences by not having to put that weight on her work, on her artwork. It's a tough balance, though, to find what works for you, and it also keeps changing because life keeps changing. I went through a big life change, almost 4 months ago now, and it's taken some time to figure out that new balance, but I'm getting there and I'm learning. That's one of the reasons I started this podcast, though, because it's hard to figure out and it's going to be different for everyone at different times of our life. So hopefully we can learn something from each other. That's the goal anyway, right? All right. Well, that's enough bumper talk. Let's get into it with Isabel. Hi, Isabel.
Hi. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Where are you?
So I just wanted to tell you before we start. English is not my first language. I'm actually Spanish.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just warning you just in case. I mean, I'm quite fluent, but
yeah.
just so you know, I'm in Spain, in the Canary Islands.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so exciting.
Where are you?
I'm in Ontario, Canada.
Okay, nice.
What time is it there?
It's 5 p.m.
Oh, okay. So not too bad, but your day's over.
What time is it there?
It's noon.
Noon, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. We got all the awkwardness out of the way.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I love your illustrations.
Thank you for having me. Really, it's like an honor for me. I'm so excited. I'm quite nervous. I've got my notes written down.
I'm nervous too because I knew you were far away. I didn't know exactly where you were, but for some reason the distance was like stressing me out. I was like, oh my goodness, this one matters more.
Yeah. We've got technology, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, how long have you been doing the podcast for?
I started last January, kind of right before everything went. And it's been amazing. I've talked to some of the coolest people and it's only getting better. So it's been kind of a lifesaver during all this COVID stuff and all that. So
I can imagine. No, it's a great idea. I love it.
I also used to be really frustrated with my own creativity. So it's been really therapeutic for myself. I'm not frustrated anymore. It's now just really a positive thing in my life.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that.
So if you don't have any questions, I have a bunch of questions for you. So how about we dive into it? We'll start off.
Sure.
I'll have you introduce yourself. You can tell everyone where you're from and what you do, and then we'll just go for it.
So my name is Isabel Carreño. I'm Spanish. I'm 27 years old, and I'm an illustrator.
I love it.
That's what I do.
So tell me about your illustrations. They are so unique. They're so pretty, so simple, but so like they capture a moment. They have the real iconicness to them. Is that a word, iconicness?
I don't know, but I like the word. The funny thing about my illustrations, I think, is that I've been doing that for as long as I can remember. Like, seriously, I remember like just drawing my classmates, drawing my teachers, drawing people I knew, or like famous people, and trying to capture like the real facial expression, but in a few lines. Because like you said, they're simple. They're not like this complicated, detailed drawing. So with the years, I've been trying to like capture, like you said, like the expression of the people that I draw. So I think that's just kind of my thing, like making a simple illustration look like the person that I'm trying to represent. That's what I try to do.
Why do you think that simplicity was like important to you, even from a young age?
I'm not sure. I'm quite impatient when I draw, and like my friends can tell you that I'm quite fast at drawing. So if I get an idea, I'll just do it like in a minute and get it done over with. So like I don't like spending hours and hours and days thinking about a certain illustration. I just like get the idea and then just quickly draw it, kind of like a cartoon artist, I guess, like someone who does caricatures or something like that. I don't know. I just like that with a few lines, you can see who the person is with no need of like extra detailing.
Yeah, it gets like you're like honing in on their expression, like in capturing that.
Yeah. It's not like the eyes and the eyebrows. That's where everything's at, and then you just add the hair, and you know who it is. Yeah.
I think it's more than that, but I'll take your word for it. So tell me about cinema and kind of that love, because that's kind of, from what I've seen, like it runs so parallel with everything you're doing.
Yes, so right now I'm quite centered in cinema and music, and that's where I get my inspiration from. Basically, I just watch I love cinema, and I love watching movies, so I'm really inspired to draw what I love. That's basically what I do. I just draw whatever I like at the moment, and I try to give my own impression of it, like my own style, like honoring, let's say, this thing that I really like. I just try to mix two things that I really love, which are cinema and drawing, and that's it.
Put them together.
What comes out of it.
Talk to me about cinema, and like, when did that love how did that kind of form? And
I'd have to thank my dad, I guess, who's also like really into cinema. Well, my mom too, but mostly my dad. I've been watching movies for a long, long time, like all kind of movies. I love 60s movies. I love like French cinema. I'm just really drawn to like pretty movies, let's say, like aesthetically pleasing movies, and like eye candy. And from there is that where I get the inspiration for my own illustrations. Same happens with music, right? I just listen to a song, and then maybe I get inspired by it, and I imagine how this song would look like as a comic strip, for example, and I just draw that.
Yeah, that's fun that it goes like it turns into something. So you did the Beatles song recently, right? So so talk to me about inspiration, and like, are you just listening and then you get like pictures in your head, or like, how does that all work?
Yeah, normally when I draw something, it means that, for example, when it comes to a song, let's say Strawberry Fields Forever, obviously it's a song that I've listened to maybe 10 million times. I already feel a certain way when I listen to this song. So when I was doing like this little like comic strip for Strawberry Fields, I just tried to show more or less what I saw in my head, but also inspired by the music video, which already exists.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to go too far away from their original idea of what the song meant.
Yeah.
So I just tried to balance what I think it represents and what the Beatles in this case they represented.
So you're playing it, like you're playing with, and kind of like, not against, but you're playing with what already exists, and then kind of making your own version, like your own twist on it.
Yeah. Which maybe it's not like, I don't want to say it's not original, but it's just like my own take on something that I like, which already exists, and it's already artistic on its own.
Yeah.
It's like the way that I see it.
Well, I think that's what's so interesting about pop culture, is that, you just said you had all these feelings about this song before you kind of started drawing for it. That's because of pop culture, right? Like, that's something that connects you over there and me over here, is that sometimes I think pop culture gets like, a bad rap, like it's like, oh, it's just pop culture. And it's like, well, no, in its right place. It's really important to people, and it can bring people together.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens with my illustration. I see people who come across them and they're like, wow, I really love this song, this movie. It brings people together, like you said, people from all over the world. I love pop culture. I'm fascinated by it. Yeah. I think it's just like history, but that we live now. So probably in a few years, we're gonna look back at it and be like, oh, do you remember when such and such happened? And I think it's important. It's just part of our experience as human beings and what we consider popular. I don't know. It moves a lot of people, and it's important. Yeah, definitely.
I totally agree. It's kind of like it's like the fun history. It's like if you look back at pop culture, it's just like the fun stuff that people were doing. Like so much of history is like, you know, the heavy stuff. Politics. But yeah. But the fun part of pop culture and of history is that it really does bring people together. And then as pop culture goes on, it really gets tied to memories. And those memories become part of like the fabric of our own lives. So I think it really has a personal aspect to it too. It's not just like, oh, you know, this is what people were listening to and liking, but I'm sorry, I'm having so much trouble.
No, that's okay.
Am I gonna die in here?
Your last podcast.
Go out with a bang. But you know, like if you think about those songs and the Beatles and things like that, they become really part of, you know, our own lives. And that's where it goes from like that, you know, pop culture for everybody to this is just a song on in your kitchen, you know. I love that it can be both of those things.
Yeah, it definitely can. And I think that, well, at least personally, I've been expanding more when it comes to pop culture, as in current pop culture.
Yeah.
For instance, you know, I've been listening to a lot of Taylor Swift now, and I remember being a bit big, like a music snob when I was younger.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, this song is great, this album is great. Like, why not give it like the seriousness or like pay attention to it just because it's from this popular artist? You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be something old or something like that people consider respectable. It can be anything that you like, and if that's whoever, then
exactly
good.
Yeah, I totally agree. How do you like, what do you think prompted that kind of moving out of like that snobbery? Because I used to have it too, and I've really switched too of like, what this is all things that people have made. Why am I being snobby about this? Like,
yeah. I don't know. I think it's just with the years as I get older. Like maybe when you're a teenager, you're a bit more like careful with what represents you, and you're like, I'm only going to listen to this. I'm only going to watch this or dress a certain way. And then as you get older, you don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
And as long as you like something, like nobody's going to be checking your Spotify playlists. Well, and if they are, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. But yeah, it's just like enjoy whatever you like.
Totally. And it's like life's a lot more fun if you can go from like punk rock to hip hop to Taylor Swift to like, you know, 60s.
To everything.
Yeah. It makes life more interesting. Why would we be like, oh, I don't understand that.
Hey, you don't have to box yourself into a category. Like, you can like whatever. Yeah.
I think that you're right though, but when you're younger, you are kind of like trying to establish like, this is who I am. And
and try to make it be like as cool as
yeah.
But also tied to things that you like. So maybe you discover something that you really like at that time and you're like, wow, I love let's say the Strokes, and you're like, this is what represents me now. I'm indie kid, whatever. Then there's more out there to that. It's not just like each person is more than just like what they like at a certain moment in time. So there's nothing wrong with moving away from that.
So talk to me about that moment when you said you like with the music. How does it work with movies? Is there like, is there a scene in a movie where it's like, oh my goodness, I want to do my version of that? Or like, how does that work? Yeah.
It's just like that. Like I'd be like in front of the screen and suddenly I watch a scene and I'm like, I love this. I need to find the screenshots. I go on the internet, Pinterest, wherever I can, I find it, and then I start drawing it. It's quite simple actually. Like I would love to tell you like a certain like a big process in my mind, but it's just like, I like this, I want to reproduce it.
And then once you've reproduced it, is there like, do you just do one or do you do a few different versions? Like, how do you bring it to what we kind of see or what you put on a t-shirt?
Yeah, normally the final illustration that you see, for instance, in my Instagram feed, it's like the first drawing that I've done normally, unless I've tried like a few and I'm not having like a good day and I'm just like, I have to draw it again. I don't like it. I'm not happy with it. But my creative process is quite fast. Like I said, I just see something I like or I remember something and I draw it, I color it. If it's in color, take a picture of it, go to my computer, clean the background, up the contrast, watermark it, upload it.
Nice, love it. Yeah. Are there times though where you find yourself overthinking it?
Yes. And if I find myself overthinking it, it means that I'm not really that inspired that day.
Interesting.
It means that I don't really know what I want to draw. So maybe I'll go and do something else and then come back. Yeah. Because I like to be quick when I draw. I don't want to spend hours looking at my drawing and not liking it. Yeah. Which is something that can happen anyway. Like when I finish a drawing, and it's like when you take a picture of yourself and you stare at it for too long and you're like, I hate this. Same thing happened with my illustrations. Like I try not to look at them for too long and just like, there you go.
You just get it out there.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that you had to learn that was something though for you that was like that. This means I'm not that inspired by it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's just like a feeling you get. Like either you're inspired or you're not inspired at that moment, and you know it's going to turn out differently if you are inspired. So you might as well wait a bit and come back.
Yeah. It's tough because like that waiting for inspiration can be, I don't know, for me, sometimes it puts me off from doing, the work that if we're creative people, we want to be doing work. Sometimes it's like, it's easy to use it as an excuse. Have you, had to find a balance with any of that?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like I've had months where I'm like, no, I'm not inspired at all. Like I can't draw. It's just like, I mean, physically I could sit myself down and start drawing something on a piece of paper, but mentally I'm like, no, I don't really want to draw anything.
No.
I think that the good balance that I found is that I haven't made illustrations my whole career. So, because I studied, I'm a translator actually, I'm not a full-time illustrator. Yeah. So I don't feel the weight of having to earn money off of it all the time. So I think that takes pressure off of my creative process. Yeah. So I basically just draw whenever I want to and whenever I feel inspired, and I don't have to make it like my whole career. Yeah. I have other things on the side. So I think that that's kind of the secret to being like relaxed with your own work. Yeah. I don't know if that's the case for you or.
I think everyone has to find their own balance. I think for some people it wouldn't be enough to have another job. I think it's like, I need to do this only. But you're 100% right about it. Really takes the pressure off and just keeps it like joyful and something that you like to do and keeps it fresh and fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would obviously love to make a living out of just my illustrations, but I know that it would take like a longer time to just draw whatever I like and not work maybe for clients or for like other people, and maybe not really drawing what you want to draw. Yeah. I don't know, but I'm just looking at it that way for now. Maybe next year, I don't know, it can completely change and I'll be in a different career path. But for now, I'll just have it like, I just balance it that way with my other professional career.
Yeah. Was that a choice that you had to make? Was it a challenging choice, or was it just like, well, this makes sense. This is where this fits.
Well, at first I was a bit frustrated because I would have liked to be like a full-time artist and have studied art and whatnot. But as the years went by, I saw that it really helped me, like I said, balance one thing and the other, and maybe like, I don't know, in the world that we live in, find a job more easily thanks to my other professional path, let's say, rather than just having to live off of art. It's what I did, so it worked for me.
Yeah, I respect it, and I definitely can see the benefits. I know that there's this book called Big Magic, and Elizabeth Gilbert talks about like not wanting to ever put the pressure on her creativity to make her money. And that was a decision that she made. And I think that's really admirable. I think everyone has to make that decision for themselves though, right? So let's talk about your creativity and kind of coming up. When did you discover that you're like, so you said you've been drawing since an early age.
Yeah.
You've always been a creative?
Yeah. I've always been kind of like not the artsy kid in class, and I've always drawn. I was in charge of drawing whatever needed to be drawn in that at the time.
Yeah.
Birthday cards, anything. I would love to draw all the time. And my parents saw that at an early age, and they kept like buying me stuff, and they always encouraged me. I couldn't pinpoint like a moment in time. It's just like something that's always been there.
Yeah, I like that. When did you decide to like take it a bit more seriously, like, and open the Instagram? And what was that push of like, okay, I want to make this mine? Like, tell me about that.
That happened around 2017.
Okay.
And I have to say, it was thanks to the people around me who were like telling me, why don't you open an Instagram account? Why don't you put your drawings out there? Why don't you do this? And I was a bit like, no, I don't know, being like a bit shy and whatever. But then I just started one day and it went really well. Here we are. So
And now you're talking to some guy from Canada. Cool.
No, and it's been really interesting to see how just by putting yourself out there, you kind of build like an image like this. I don't know, like you have your own portfolio.
Yeah.
On Instagram, you get people from all over the world, like you, for example, that see your work. You have a lot more opportunities rather than just like gatekeeping everything.
Yeah.
My sketchbook. So, yeah.
Does it bring any pressure for you though?
I think the pressure is more like, it might sound silly, but like I'm really picky on how my feed looks like.
Yeah.
So sometimes I've uploaded maybe, I don't know, a few pictures or illustrations or whatever, and then I look at my feed again and I hate it. So I delete it and I try to change it around.
Yeah.
Then I regret deleting it. Then I have to like, I don't know. The pressure is just me fighting with myself. So
yeah. Aren't we all just fighting with ourselves?
Yeah. We are our own enemies.
Sometimes when I post to Instagram, I have to like put down my phone for I'll post it at noon or whatever, and then I'll just be like, I have to like put this, because I just want to keep checking and like like.
Yeah.
It's funny how there's this thing that's connected. Like that's how I discovered your work, and that's what led us to us talking today. It obviously has positive aspects to it, but man, it is hard to get out of that social. Like sometimes it just gets in there. Like
I know. It's like it's a love-hate relationship. Like thanks to Instagram, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
But also, it can be so crazy. Like the pressure that you put on yourself, and well, what I found helps me is like not really spending so much time on the app and not comparing yourself to other artists. Like I follow lots of artists that I love, and I really love them all, but I try not to look at what they're doing a lot.
Yeah. Just
so that I don't get all like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing that? Why am I not in this exhibition? Like it's just really frustrating if you start inevitably comparing yourself to others. So yeah, I just have a lot of people muted, and like I said, it's people that I love and I admire, and whenever I want to, I'll just search for them and maybe like at that moment look at their feed and their work. But like when you pick up a book and you look at whatever you want to look at at that moment, not having everything like thrown at you all the time and feeling pressured. So it's just like I prefer to choose when I look at someone else's work rather than having it shown up like all the time. I don't know if it makes sense.
No, that does make sense. And it's really, you're kind of protecting yourself. I think we've all been there. We're having like a lower day and then we see something and it's just like, it's like we're jealous. But 2 minutes, like that morning, you could have been like, "Oh, things are going great. I'm so positive," but just the wrong thing, the wrong social post at the wrong time.
Why did I open Instagram today? Why?
Yeah. And then there's that jealousy or that like, it just sends you on the, I should be doing this, I should be doing it, and it's not helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a battle with yourself because, for example, even the thing that we talked about before, the feed or what it looks like or whatever, like nobody else cares.
Yeah.
So like literally nobody else is going to be checking that this background is white and this one is colorful and the next one is white. So it's just like we create our own little stressful Instagram world of our own. And the thing is that when I talk to other artists that I know, and everyone's the same, everyone has the same problem, and it's like, it's interesting because we're like suffering from the same problem. We think that the next person doesn't think that, or doesn't have this kind of problems, or maybe, but it's just like a reflection of one another.
Yeah, it's comforting to be like, oh, okay. Like when you have those times where it's like, okay, I'm obsessing about my feed or whatever, it's helpful to kind of like put it down to be like, everyone has to deal with this sometimes. And you're like, I'm okay. And then you can move on. It's like you can let yourself off the hook a little.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
it's also not that serious. Like at the end of the day, I mean, it's just like your art put out there in a nice social media app. Like
I think that's I think that's a great reminder. I should put that at the end of every podcast. Like, okay, so all this stuff, it's actually not that serious. So just
like relax,
go draw.
Relax. Don't cry. Draw.
We can overthink this and it's fun too, but also it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't matter if that is going to like cause you maybe anxiety or problems. Like that's what I'm trying to say, that when it comes to not taking it that seriously, obviously it's serious because it's your work, but I'm talking about like the Instagram world. No?
Oh, for sure. But even the work, sometimes we have to take that part not as seriously as we take it, like it's like we have to be serious about our creativity, but then also if we're too serious about it, the fun's gone and or we're stressing about it, or like, and it's not, it's the reason why you're like, you kept it like something that you can have fun with, right?
On the spot.
But it's just this whole conversation that we've hit all these things of like these internal things that we have to keep balanced in our minds of like, I don't look at it too long, or if I'm stressing about like all these little tricks, mental tricks, that's all we have.
You just find what works for you.
And do more of that.
So, and spread the word.
That's our advice. So we talked about other people's work. We talked about the negative aspect of other people's work a little bit, but talk to me about like the positive aspect. Was there a few artists that kind of like pushed you to kind of like get better, to like do more, like in a good way though?
Yes, so there's a few artists that I admire and I have always admired since I was little. For instance, Al Hirschfeld, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he was like a Hollywood artist and he would make caricatures of famous people. And I remember going into a shop and seeing like all of these caricatures and I was like, wow, that's so cool. I would love to do that. Like really famous people from old Hollywood. And then there's a very famous Spanish illustrator called Jordi Lavanda. I remember when like he came, all of his stuff came out and we had like stationery with his illustrations on it and everything. I would always buy it. And he would always draw like this kind of like fashionable girls, and sometimes what he did was he drew famous people too, like celebrities, and he really captured their expression. And I was so fascinated by like, wow, this really looks like, I don't know, Madonna, for example. I can see now that I'm talking to you that it's always been like the same kind of thing, like trying to capture people's facial expressions. When it comes to just like Instagram artists, there's she's also Spanish, this artist called Ana Castiñeira. She also has like her own style and she draws famous people too. And I remember seeing her account and I was like, wow, I love this so much. Like, so there's a few people that have really inspired me, and it all has to do a bit with pop culture, with like the representation of, let's say, celebrities or movies or whatever. No, so just like cartoons in general, like comic book strips, like, I don't know, do you know when you're watching The Simpsons and suddenly like a celebrity comes on and you're like, oh, that's Britney Spears in The Simpsons. Like, for me, that was like, it was so cool. Like, that's like, like being able to draw this character as in like a very specific style.
Yeah.
But people have known like it's Britney Spears, for example.
It's like double pop culture. Like it's like pop culture through the lens of another pop culture. It's like, I know what you mean. It's really exciting too. And it's fun to hear that you like this has been like a constant of you and like admiring it in other people, because it is a cool thing when someone's style becomes, it's so distinctly their style, but it's also so distinctly that person that like it's a cool trick, you know?
Yeah, that's my aim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
It's what you said, it's like pop culture in pop culture. Yeah, that's exactly what.
Yeah, and it's exciting. Like those times where like, oh, like I remember the White Stripes were on, and it's like, I think even for those artists, it's like, oh, I did something that's iconic. I think it's cool.
And it's really satisfying when people recognize it and like, oh, that's whoever, and I'm like, yeah.
Has it happened?
Yeah. Maybe if I'm at a market or whatever, and people are looking at my print and they're like, oh, this is this person and that's this person. Oh, you really captured their essence, or like,
oh yeah, really
and I'm like, thank you.
yeah. I thought someone was like, oh, I know your art, like recognize your specific art. I think I would.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've had people tell me that looks like you draw it, and I didn't draw it. I'm like, oh, okay.
You're like, well,
I don't know if that's good or bad, but
you're like stuff picking at it.
Yeah, like nah. No, but yeah, when people recognize your style, it's really cool.
Yeah, celebrities too, to like go back to that a little, they can be, I don't think people talk about this, and maybe we talk about it when someone dies, but there are some people that you'll never meet, but when they die, you really do feel it as a loss. And I think that just ties into the pop culture too, of just like how attached we can get to some of these people.
Yeah, there's a few celebrities that I'm scared when they die. Like, like for example, I don't know, Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney. Like, I know I'm going to be sad, and like you said, I don't really know them. I don't know if they're good people or not. Like, I don't know them personally, but just with what they put out to the world, like with their music, it's just like it's a part of your life, like you said before. So you feel it as a loss. I don't know. It's quite interesting. Yeah.
A few years ago when David Bowie and like Prince died close to each other, I was like mourning for like the world, because like it was like the world's less interesting now. Like it just just something that made this world weirder and cooler and is gone now. And that's sad. And I think that's something that's pop culture too. We don't talk about it like pop culture, but it is.
No, it is pop culture, and it's like having something that you love die. So obviously you're going to feel sad. Maybe it's not like a family member, but it's some part of what you like and what you love. It can be music, or maybe you just admire this person for their life in general, but still it's quite interesting, the death of celebrities that we admire.
I also liked when you were saying about, so that you talked about the stationery that you had that had these illustrations on it. Were you younger, like when you had these?
Yeah, that was when I was back at school, and every year I would go and check like the new the new merch. I remember like always getting it for my birthday, because it's in September, so it's always like it was like a nice thing that happened each year. I remember like just going on my dad's computer and checking out these illustrations, and then trying to like make my own illustration. And here we are.
I love it. And I think that's, not to keep going on the pop culture thing, but I mean, even that a company decided to print those things, and then they inspired you as a kid, and like someone come up in school. And I think that is something that we don't appreciate enough either. I mean, that's something that was part of your journey, and something that reminded you, hey, I want to draw like that. But really it was just someone like in an office being like, I don't know, go with these ones.
No, it's really interesting. And you only realize it like now that I'm looking back at it, and because we're talking, no? But it's obviously been a big part of why I make this kind of illustrations, because maybe I could be doing, I don't know, watercolor or oil painting or whatever, but I'm just like stuck in this illustration process.
Talk to me about your process. Are there things that you do, like, because you're saying that you keep it kind of like, you want to keep it fun, and do you put any work in like into expanding the craft or expanding your tools, or what kind of thought do you give into that?
So I have tried, and there are a few illustrations out there that have been modified with Illustrator, with Adobe Illustrator.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to move towards a more digital art.
Yeah.
But I find it quite difficult. I don't know why. There's something about it that just, I'm scared that it will change my style completely and it will just look like any other generic illustration out there. But at the same time, I know there's like so many possibilities with this kind of programs and with like a tablet or whatever. So I'm always tempted to like get one and start drawing like that, and expanding a bit more my knowledge. But at the same time, I think there's something quite nice about just using my felt tip pens and pens. But I think eventually I will evolve into the digital art world.
Yeah. I love that about creativity, and it's something we have to decide for ourselves. Just like we were talking before about the work thing, is like, how far do you want to push whatever thing you're doing, right? You know, it's like every art form can be like a rabbit hole of, well, if you do this, then like if you get into photography, then you can get this camera and this camera, and it can just keep going. Eventually you have to just be like, this is where this is my zone, and I'm gonna be comfortable here.
Yeah.
That takes, I don't know, maybe maturity or resources. Maybe you just have to be comfortable, but it's interesting.
I think it's good to give it a go, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, then you can go back to what works for you, and if it does, then you found a better way of drawing. So
so there's no downside. But do you ever feel like, do you ever battle imposter syndrome at all? Like when you see someone like doing digital art, is it ever like, oh, like, do you have that negative, like?
It for me, it feels like if I want to be a proper professional in this field, I have to know how to work with digital art and know all of the programs, because first of all, it makes everything faster. So obviously for clients, it's something good for you to have, like this skill.
Yeah.
And like I said, like it can elevate your art if you know how to use them properly to like a different level. And there's so many possibilities that I know that if I want to seem more professional, maybe if I started working with other people, I have to jump into the digital art.
But then we go back to that balance of just like, you know, that adds this pressure that's not there necessarily right now.
Yeah.
Where's that sweet spot? I think, I don't know, it's tough.
I think it depends on how ambitious you want to be. Like if it's just for fun, like it has been for me for a few years, then you're doing good like that. But maybe if I wanted to find a different audience or some other people to work with, then I can understand why they would want me to know how to use, I don't know, Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever.
I think that's a great point about the ambition, is that some people have more than other people.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your creativity though, and how you balance that with the people around you. I mean, so this is now a part of your life that's growing. You have your full-time job, you have your family. Talk to me about finding the balance as a creative person.
Yeah, for me, when I sit down and draw, it's just part of like my me time. So I love spending time alone, and it's just therapeutic for me. I've always found it like something that really relaxes me. That's why I don't really want to spoil it with pressure, like we were talking before, because it's just a big part of me in my own little world. So when I'm like, when my social, how do you say, like I've been around too many people and I need just some time with myself, I just sit down and draw, and I feel better with myself. So
I love that. And
I don't have to pay for therapy.
At the end of the day, like that's the best, you know. Before you had social media, before you had you could get alone and you could draw and you'd feel better about yourself. And it's so nice that like creative people, we have that as an option to like, we can go make something and feel better.
Yeah, exactly. And you have like a finished product, like you can see what came out of, maybe you were feeling sad or whatever, like 1 hour ago, and then suddenly you've got like this illustration, you're feeling a lot better, you even made this. So it's just like, some people go out for a run and they run for like 10 kilometers, and other people do
they go do a draw. So with your creativity, if you were to picture it in your mind's eye and give it a physical form, what would that look like and how you interact with it? It's a weird question, but sometimes I get fun answers. So
what would it look like? I think it would be like a ball of clay, because it can change so much. Like,
I
want to do at that moment. So it's not like, it has to be something that can change forms, but also colorful, but also black and white, but also simple. Like I don't want to make it complicated, but
it's like magic clay.
Yes, or like slime. I don't know, whatever. Like something that you can change, but it's also not there all the time. That's a good question. Yeah, magic clay.
Talk to me about when it's not there. How do you? Do you miss it? Do you worry about it?
I always know it's going to come back. Yeah. There's been a few times where I was worried, like, why haven't I been drawing in months? Like, what's wrong? Why am I feeling so weird? But then one day I just sit down and it goes away. So like, if I'm not feeling inspired at a certain moment in my life, I know I will eventually. So that doesn't stress me out at all.
Yeah. I like that. Again, we're letting you off the hook. It's like, there's no point in being hard on yourself about something like this, right? On the other hand, you have quotes like where someone says like inspirations for amateurs or something like that. There's that phrase, while I think it has good intention, can put a lot of pressure on you of like, when you're having a month where you don't feel inspired and you've tried to draw and it's just, or whatever creative thing someone does. I think though that thought can ring in your mind of like, oh, maybe I'm not this creative person. Do you ever have any of those things that you have to kind of sort through?
Yeah. Like for me, it happens mostly when I have to draw something for someone else, and that's where I'm like, do I really like drawing, or do I just like drawing things that I like?
Yeah.
Because it can be so frustrating when people like, I mean, I love commission art, but sometimes it's just like when the idea doesn't come from within yourself, it's so hard to also like try to imagine what the other person wants from you, because they want it in your style, but you feel the pressure of like, they have to like it. And I wouldn't necessarily draw this myself. So that's where the pressure comes in, and they also might have like a certain expectation, or they're like really looking forward to seeing the final product, so that stresses me out even more. And then that's where I feel like a bit like, am I an imposter, or should I get paid for this, or should I just stick with my little Instagram account?
I love what you said. Like, do I like drawing, or do I just like drawing what I like?
Yeah.
Because it's a real question. I mean, it's a question for all of us creatives at the end of the day. It's like, do you like doing this enough to do it for other people? And that question can change a lot of things. I think maybe I should have asked myself that question like years ago on some things of like, do I really want to do this for someone else, or do I just want to do this for me? It can be very freeing to just answer that. But
also sometimes it's worth trying, right? Like,
that's true too.
For example, I drew this, I painted this wall for like a kindergarten school, a local school. And at first I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I've never painted I've never done this kind of thing before, but then I ended up loving it, and I wouldn't mind doing it again. So that's just an example of trying something different and liking it in the end. But obviously, if I did it and I didn't like it, then probably I wouldn't do it again. So.
Yeah, it's just about staying open, right? Like that's what I'm getting a lot from you, is like you got to stay open to those possibilities.
You try it, and like I said before, if you don't like it, then nobody forcing you to do it again. That's it.
I guess it's having the proper response when you don't like it. Like if you put a lot of pressure on yourself, you could be like, oh, I don't like this, but or I'm not good at this, or I'm not as good as I thought I would be at this. If you're trying it out, then you can be casual about it. But if you put a lot of pressure, then it can be a negative thing of like, oh, I don't like that. And then it can go internal. Maybe.
And with creative people, I think that the problem we have is that creativity is such a big part of ourselves and our personality and how people see us, that I feel like if we fail in this, then it's kind of over. Like, if people suddenly started hating my drawings, let's say, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, like that's just such a big part of myself. That's where the pressure comes from. Like, if you do something like a commission or like, and you end up not liking it, it's like not liking yourself in a certain way, which is weird, but it also makes sense because it's a product that you have created. And you feel kind of like a failure if you don't like it. But obviously you can try again and get better.
Where do you think that urge to make stuff comes from? Like in your head, when you hear that song and you like kind of imagine it with the music video, like what's your opinion on where that comes from?
I'm not sure where it comes from. It's just like this force in myself that tells me do it. I don't know. I don't really know where it comes from. It's just like you get this urge to draw, and I do it, and that's it. I don't really have an explanation for that. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I'm glad. I like your voice for it. Like, just draw. Like it's
someone at the back of my head saying like, draw.
Yeah. I love it. What's your favorite thing to draw?
My favorite thing to draw?
Yeah.
I have to say women.
Yeah.
I find it a lot easier to draw women than men, and maybe because of the movies that I watch. Maybe it's just like a constant recurring theme in like I said, like I like aesthetically pleasing movies and colorful movies, and so maybe that's the reason why I end up drawing. Like if you go through my Instagram account, you'll find like it's like 80% women.
Yeah,
probably. But yeah, I don't know. I find it easier, and I like it. I don't know.
That's a good answer. What do you think it is though about women that other than the easier thing, like is there something like, do they just hold expressions that kind of communicate kind of those moments more, or
it might be that I feel myself represented when I watch these movies, and I'm like, well, I understand why she's saying this or why she's doing that, so I just, maybe if there's like a quote that I like from a film or whatever, then I'm like, oh, I really understand where she's coming from. Let me draw this and feel like parts of like my own understanding from this movie. I think it's representation, really. Like,
I talked to another illustrator from Utah, and he said his favorite thing to draw is women as well, because it's like, he said that easier thing, but then also he loves the energy. So it's interesting when you hear similar things from different people from different perspectives too.
Maybe he gets like a certain nice feminine energy, and he's a man, so he sees it differently. I don't know. And for me, it's more like seeing myself represented in these women, but at the end of the day, we both like drawing the same thing, so it's quite interesting.
I like how it changes and stays the same at the same time.
The final thing is the same, but the reason why we got there is different.
It's the thing about creativity and creative people that it's a thing I keep scratching at, because it's what brings us together, what connects us. It's all different, but it's all the same. It's so interesting to me.
It's just a part of ourselves that we put out there for the world to see, and an extension of ourselves.
Is there anything about creativity that you've kind of learned? I think you've learned a lot. Like I really value everything you said about, I think a lot of us have, the people listen, are in that middle ground of like, this is growing and this is my own thing, but it's not my whole thing right now. Like, I think your perspective on that has been amazing. Is there anything else that you've kind of learned about being a creative person?
Yes, I feel like, well, it happened more at the beginning, but also a bit now. Like I thought I had to be like really niche in what I did, like really like specific and just stick to that. Otherwise, like my project wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But that really is just limiting yourself. And I'm going back to like how my Instagram feed looked like. It's just like if I suddenly saw like, oh, there's a movie, then there's a song, then there's something that doesn't have to do with anything. Well, what I'm trying to say with all of this is that the creative process doesn't have any limits, and you can draw, in my case, whatever you like, whatever you feel like. It can be an object, it can be a person. It doesn't always have to be a movie, a song. It can be anything you like. And I was limiting myself at the beginning more with what I thought I could do to make sense as a creative person. Like I thought I had to be, like I said before, like really specific in my art, but it's a free world, so,
so
you can create art.
What would that look like for you? Like, would you be like, oh, I want to draw this, or I want, and then you'd say no to yourself? Like, is that what would happen?
Yeah, I remember like maybe I would want to draw, let's say, I think it was like a box of crayons or something like that that I wanted to draw one day.
Yeah.
And I remember this was during the lockdown. And I did it, and at first I liked it, and then I was like, why did I draw this? What's this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I even uploaded it, and then I ended up deleting it because I just like put the pressure on myself on this doesn't really make any sense with the rest of your work. So why are you doing this? But I did it, I drew it, and then I didn't like it. So I just like ended up deleting it.
Yeah. But now you're realizing, why did I delete that? Like, I shouldn't have deleted that.
Yeah. Now I'm like going back to what I said before, like nobody cares that much. Like,
yeah.
I don't think someone is going to be like, oh, why is she drawing a box of crayons and not a movie poster or whatever?
I came here for Wes Anderson and French Girls, not crayons. So
exactly. And like, well, I mean, if people want to unfollow me, if they stop seeing that kind of content, then that's perfectly fine. But I don't want that to be the reason why I am limiting myself.
Yeah. I've like found recently with like my work is like, I want to keep picking, and I'm like stopping myself. I'm like, could I make this 10% better? Yes. But is it actually going to make is it going to change anything? No. Do the next one.
Yeah.
It's tough though.
Yeah, it's tough. It's fun. It's tough. It's a lot of things.
That's the best explanation I've heard of creativity ever. Fun. It's tough. It's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Isabel, it's been so nice getting to know you and hearing about your art and hearing about like, you know, the woman who's making all the stuff that I've admired and liked for a long time. So thank you so much for spending the time and you know, sharing your work with us. I don't think I have any more questions, so I think we're good.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. Really, like, this has been an amazing experience. The first interview that I do like this, like face to face with someone. So it's a moment I will never forget.
Oh, that's I'm glad we could share this moment together. Where can we find you on social media in case someone hasn't?
Yes, so at Bonjour Isabel. Isabel spelled like the Spanish way.
I love it.
Isabel.
Are you on any other social media or just that one?
Instagram, Facebook, and then I've got my webpage.
Yeah.
www.bonjourisabel.com.
Do you have any new projects coming up that you're excited about?
Not at the moment. I'm just trying to, like I said before, like maybe start getting into the digital world and start experimenting with new stuff. But yeah.
Talk to me about your shirts though. Like, have you recently had some products though, right? Like, is that kind of a new thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I started maybe like around a year ago, or no, less than a year ago.
Okay.
I have found that it's a good way to really engage with people, because if people like your illustrations, they're not always going to want to hang them up on their wall, because I don't know, it doesn't always fit their style or whatever. But what people like is like wearing things that they like on themselves, like on a t-shirt. And like you said, it's like a pop culture reference within a pop culture reference that you can also wear. So instead of having like the original photo of any film, you have like a drawing which represents every this film. It's kind of like, if you know, you know. And that's what they like about it. Like, if you get the reference, you get it. It's not so obvious, but it's just like keeping it simple, but also with things that people love. And I think that's why the t-shirts and the jumpers are getting a bit more popular.
Well, I love them. I think they look great on it. Your style's so cool, and so like it has this iconic thing to it that I really, really like.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day, okay?
You too. Thank you, Ryan.
Isabel's great, isn't she? I love what she had to say about losing her snobbiness and how that's opened her up to different styles of music and movies, but then also just letting go and letting other people like what they like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you. I think that's a good reminder for all of us. I love that her work is this celebration of pop culture and what it means to her and what it means to all of us. And it was nice to kind of get into that like kind of nerdy pop culture within pop culture, you know, Inception type rabbit hole with her. So it was just, and it was really cool that she's from Spain. And, you know, I'm probably, in my life, I'd probably never go to Spain, but to be able to connect with her over her art and the things that she's learned and the things that she likes, it was just really cool. And I was really glad to be part of that and share it with everyone today. Yeah, it was just cool. Thank you, Isabel, for being on the podcast this week. Thank you for the pretty girls that you draw. I love your artwork. Thank you for sharing your creative journey with us, talking pop culture and connections with pop culture with me. Keep up the good work. I love it. Alternative titles for this episode could be Spread the Word, Proper Professional, or It's Fun, It's Tough, It's a lot of things. It sure is. Today's episode was produced by me, Ryan Leacock, with music by Gustav. Big thank you to Mixed Media Sound for cleaning up these sounds, and a special thanks to Aaron from Him and Her. Thank you to you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, go give us a nice review on Apple Podcasts, like right now, so you don't forget. Have a good week, guys. Do the work, but don't take it too seriously, okay? See ya.